Alright, what's up everyone? Mike Lowe here. Welcome back. We are jumping into episode 2 of our NBA 2K21 Next Gen MyNBA with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Let's jump right into some game action, your second game of the season. And this was not a pretty game for the Timberwolves, but we did see some good play from D'Angelo Russell here. You can see early in the first quarter, nice crossover move to get to the basket and kept it close early, but at the half you can see 56-38 lead by the Nets there, really just dominating in just about every facet of the game. And Karl-Anthony Towns and DeAndre Jordan both with double-doubles in the first half. And going into the second half, whether it was Kevin Durant, DeAndre Jordan, or Kyrie Irving, there was just some dominant play here. As you can see, the nice alley-oop to DeAndre Jordan from Kevin Durant, and it continued here. Kyrie Irving with the ball, shoots it over to Durant, and is able just to really just take control of this game and just be able to dominate inside, outside. Great shooting by the Nets, really just all around. But as I mentioned, D'Angelo Russell was a bright spot. Nice crossover move again, gets to the hoop with a nice lay-in. But overall, there just wasn't a whole lot going on for the Timberwolves in this game. Later on in the third quarter, it will be D'Angelo Russell again here after giving the Rubio. Rubio's going to look across there for Russell, and Russell's going to create some space for himself, get a nice open shot, and drain it for two. And we're going to pick it up late here in the fourth. And I mentioned earlier that Nets really just dominated, and they're even able to dominate when we were playing good defense. We saw a lot of this. Really good coverage, 50% covered. Shots just going in for them, and it was the opposite for us as we take a really ugly loss, 100-76. And so the Timberwolves still looking for their first win of the season, start the season 0-2. Let's transition and take a look at the player of the game for both teams here and some of the team leaders. Starting with the Nets, DeAndre Jordan, 17 points, 18 rebounds, and was really quietly a huge difference maker in this game. He was my pick for player of the game for the Nets. We go over and take a look at the Minnesota Timberwolves here. D'Angelo Russell, as I mentioned, 28 points, 6 rebounds. Karl-Anthony Towns also a nice double-double, 19 points, 18 rebounds, but after that, it was pretty cold for the Timberwolves. Take a quick look at team stats, and I'll let you examine those on your own. I decided to actually jump in and play also the third game of the season, and this one went much better for the Timberwolves here. We're looking to get their first win of the season, this game also on the road here against Charlotte. And one of the biggest reasons why this game went much better for the Timberwolves was the bench play, especially from James Johnson, who you're going to see here hitting the three-pointer. And nice setup there by D'Angelo Russell on the play. Later on here in the first quarter, it's going to be James Johnson again getting open, making another big shot here for the Timberwolves on the pick and fade. And here it is, pretty deep that time. And James Johnson gives them a really nice lead heading into the end of the first quarter here. And at the end of the first, with a touchdown lead, the Minnesota Timberwolves lead 24-17 over the Charlotte Hornets. Jumping into the second quarter here, it's going to be a plethora of different Timberwolves getting involved. That time Anthony Edwards on the nice dish by Karl-Anthony Towns, doing one of the things that he does best, which is drawing people inside and kicking it outside. Midway through the second quarter, you're going to see D'Angelo Russell here on the drive, and look at the pass to Karl-Anthony Towns for the alley-oop slam. Beautiful, beautiful pick and roll between those two who've been doing this just about all season so far in the early get-going. Later on, Malik Beasley drives and is fouled and converts. So again, it's a nice assortment of players getting involved here for the Timberwolves. And as we go into halftime here, it's a pretty nice lead, 42-29, but really what we're looking at here are two really bad teams, especially Hornets playing really poorly in the first half. Anthony Edwards here showing his athleticism like he's done. He struggled a little bit early in the season so far, but he has been able to still demonstrate the athletic ability that he possesses here. Look at him getting to the rim here, still being able to convert. So it wasn't all Timberwolves though. We did see some nice play here. This time LaMelo Ball driving, doing what he does best, scoring on the inside there, plus the foul. Later on in the third quarter, it is the Hornets again. We're going to have a nice rebound coming up here by Cody Zeller. He's going to get the rebound. He's going to try to put it back up, but big block there by Johnson. Timberwolves continuing the roll here. Amari Spellman, open three-pointer, and is able to sink it. A big man shooting from the outside, which he does quite well. Later on in the third, D'Angelo Russell drives, is fouled, and converts on the play for the 3-point play for the Timberwolves, who are up 15 at this point, midway through the third quarter. Later on, of course, in the third, finally forcing some turnovers are the Timberwolves here. Karl-Anthony Towns with the ball is going to try to penetrate here and find a wide open D'Angelo Russell from the corner. Hits the three. 59-40, Minnesota up here. Later on, another forced turnover. Watch this play here. Ricky Rubio looking for Karl-Anthony Towns, finds him up top, and slams it home for another alley-oop here. Just a really, really nice play from a player we like a lot there in Ricky Rubio with his passing ability. And at the end of the third quarter, we see a pretty substantial lead, 14-point lead there for the Timberwolves. But Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't always need help from his teammates. He can do it all by himself sometimes there. +1, finishing down low against Cody Zeller there, who takes the foul. Later on in the third, again, athleticism. Anthony Edwards gets there, ugly shot, but is able to get it to fall. A lot of inside fouls there by Charlotte today. And really the Timberwolves just playing extremely well. 23-point lead midway through the fourth quarter. And later on in the fourth here, again, the defense coming up big, getting steals, getting blocks. And here another, almost looks like a replay from the first half there. D'Angelo Russell to Karl-Anthony Towns on the alley-oop. And Timberwolves continue to roll. Charlotte had some nice plays themselves. Find Cody Zeller down low there. Finishes, nice play for him. He had a pretty good game for the Hornets. Later on here in the fourth, 4.5 minutes left, Karl-Anthony Towns gets the double team, draws it as usual in the fourth quarter here, and Russell hits. So that's something we've seen a bit of a pattern, the AI double teaming down low in the fourth quarter. Hornets now have the ball again, 4 minutes left in the fourth. And we've been trying to make LaMelo Ball stay up top there. At that time he does, and he hits. So he's able to hit the jump shot that we've been trying to force him to shoot more of this game. From the Hornets again here. 3 minutes left in the fourth. I mentioned Cody Zeller having a pretty decent game here. Watch him work hard down low here. Gets a rebound. Gets another rebound, tip back that time. Is able to finish. So again, quietly had a nice game for a team that didn't play very well. Karl-Anthony Towns again gets the ball out on the double team, kicks it over to Johnson, who hits yet another three. James Johnson, as I mentioned, really, really strong game for him. Just about 2 minutes to go now. Hornets with the ball. And it's going to be Cody Zeller here again, working hard down low. Kicks it back out to Batum and finishes there. So that's it. It's a big 22-point win for the Timberwolves. They do get their first win of the season. This time on the road here to improve to 1-2 in the very early going. And we're going to take a look at some players of the game here. Again, LaMelo Ball, I mentioned, had a nice game for them. 21 points, 2 rebounds. And otherwise, Cody Zeller, 20 rebounds there, worth mentioning. But they were a team that did not shoot well today at all. Looking at the Timberwolves, Karl-Anthony Towns, 33 points, 20 rebounds. D'Angelo Russell, 16 points, 3 assists. And James Johnson, who I accidentally mentioned was coming off the bench, but is more really just a secondary starter for us with 12 points. So let's take a look at the team stats, which I'll again let you look at on your own. Now, by the time this video ends, we will be at the midway point of the season, and along the way we had some interactions happening, such as Ricky Rubio reaching out about more playing time and some other elements that you're probably familiar with if you've played the MyGM mode of the past, and of course MyNBA combining those different modes here, and we had to tell Ricky Rubio just to kind of relax because there's a good player in front of him. Also, sponsorships popping up here, had a couple of these unlocked. We eventually will reach out to the Jordan team and have a conversation with them with truthfully kind of an uneventful thing. Again, I think the game does such a good job of presenting different pieces of the game. They just don't go very deep with it. So for instance, here we see I can reach out to this team. We fly this guy all the way in, says, hey, you'd be a good sponsor. He says, let's do it. And he gets back on a plane and probably stays in a hotel, and we pay for his food and all of those sort of things. So it would just be nice to see a little bit more depth. Here we are seeing pricing changes that have opened up, so whether it's merchandise, concessions, ticket prices, parking, all of those different things have opened up here, and you're able to keep an eye on and adjust those things too. Also, press conferences, we've had a few of these pop up here. Again, not a ton of depth. I think these look great. I think they're a great addition and it's not a new addition. These were in MyNBA, but again, just seeing these be carried over into my NBA from my GM, I should say, is really, really cool. So again, they're asking us about, different interactions, and it's kind of a one-way street a lot of times where it's just really, really easy to raise the relationships that you're looking to impact here. And just again, I think the depth is probably lacking a little bit for as innovative and as nice as this is to see. It looks pretty, but truthfully on the surface, I think is where it shines the most, and then the substance beneath that is truthfully probably lacking a little bit. So hope to see more of that in the future. Continuing with some other conversations here, again, looking at scouting. We've been doing a lot of scouting here. We may not have a first round pick we have a protected top 3 pick here. And so we've been going around looking at some of the top talent in the draft so far. We will take a closer look at that here a little bit later in this video. But again, just kind of going and showing you the conversation mechanics again in MyNBA, very, very similar to my GM, even my league of the past, where you're having these conversations with your GM, and you can see my little slightly edited draft class here that we talked about in episode 1. So just looking for some players that could be fits. We're doing a lot of scouting, and again, I'll get into more detail of this later, but we're doing a lot of scouting for guys who could be a potential top 3 pick, because if we don't have a top 3 pick, we lose that first round pick to Golden State. Other than that, it's been preparing for a second round pick that we technically don't have, but I do think we will have sooner rather than later by the end of the trade deadline. Okay, well, as I mentioned, we are at the midway point already of the 2020/2021 season. It is March 1st, 2021, and in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see there we are 14-27, well below what the owner has asked us to be, which is a 500 team. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that we're going to get into, but before we dive into this team, I wanted to show you probably the coolest part of this patch that I've seen. And that's the updated player photos. And so if you can't see it, there's a bit of like a posterization effect on these player photos. And I think it looks really, really great. It, well, not an exact match from like computer generated faces. They do just add a little bit more realism of just kind of showing you, kind of tying these two worlds together, kind of the real life players along with the fictional players that start to populate your franchise. And so I just think these are really, really cool to see. And they look really nice. This is the first game I've seen to do something like this, and I just think they look really, really terrific. So wanted to mention that. But, again, 14-27, there's probably a couple really big reasons for that. First of all, one of our biggest, the biggest player we have and our most important player, Karl Anthony Towns, has been hurt for a pretty substantial amount of time. He's only played in where'd he go? 18 games, right, out of our 41. And so he has missed more than half of the games we've played in. He's already missed almost a quarter of the season up to this point, and it's had a huge impact on this team because, of course, he's our best player. He's who this team is built around. Whether you're playing the games or simming the games, it doesn't really matter. And speaking of simming the games, I think the game did a fantastic job of really replicating what we're seeing here. And we're seeing a team. I played the first 3 games, as you saw. We went 1-2, and my offense struggled, which is weird because this is a pretty decent offensive team. A lot of good shooters. D'Angelo Russell, really great slasher player, first pick in the draft. Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, as we mentioned, who can score from anywhere. But I've been having trouble just because I'm still getting better at this game. But playing a little bit more, sound defense than perhaps the base ratings would tell us, which of course you can do when you're manually controlling players. And I've kind of seen that transition a little bit into the simulated games because even though this is probably more of an offensive team, our offense has been putrid through this stretch. And again, some of that's Karl Anthony Towns being out. But our defense has actually held out okay. We're not a good rebounding team. And we can look at those team stats later. But I think what's really neat is seeing that, I went 1-2. It's a very small sample size, but almost the same winning percentage is what we're seeing here in the simulated games to have us at 14-27. So I thought that was pretty cool. What's not cool, I guess, or is making it very difficult to get a good read on this team is, where are we at with this team? I mean, we should be closer to 500, but we've had our best player out. So it's been really hard to get a read. It's not something I can sit here at the halfway point and say, well, here's what's wrong. Here's what needs to be fixed. Here's the trade we're going to make. And we haven't made any trades. We haven't made really any adjustments. because we're just trying to take as much time as we can to start to see, okay, is this team going to start trending up now that we're again fully healthy, or are things just going to continue to kind of fall apart and disintegrate here? So it is a really, really tough decision. I think we talked about Robert Covington as a player from the Trailblazers we were looking at, but he's a 30-year-old player now, and so as much as I think he would be a really good fit for us because of his ability to play defense, perimeter D, inside D, he's not a great rebounder, so he's not going to help us there. He would give us some depth at power forward, but he's 30 and he has 1 year left on his contract after this year. So again, is he really a guy that we need to be bringing in? And so, it's tough to say. There are a couple other players that we're looking at here. And, some target lists, I would say, Jonathan Isaac, we talked about. I mean, he's just probably unobtainable for what Orlando's been asking for him. But there's, Aduka Azubuike. He's a rookie this year, 27th pick overall from the Jazz. This is a player that was actually offered up in a trade, and I didn't really like their offer, but I did just kind of mark him down because I thought he would be a good player. I think that the problem with him is he doesn't really have any positional versatility. So a nice 7-foot, 270-pound, 21-year-old center, but he would be backing up Karl Anthony Towns, and he can score underneath the basket. Good defender, good rebounder. I really wish this guy could play power forward because at the very least, this guy would be a really good player to come off the bench and eventually start. You can see there with his potential. He would be a starter probably by next year for us. So we're keeping an eye out for that. I mean, I think power forward is going to be our weakest spot because the GM has asked us to trade James Johnson. He's our only power forward on the roster. They've also asked us to trade a couple of small forwards, and so they want us to start trimming down that position. And Ricky Rubio, to me, he's, as you saw earlier in this video, has been asking for more playing time. He's a really nice player to have, but he makes a ton of money, and it's just not really, you don't want a guy on your bench making $18 million. Although he is our sixth player there, so he's the sixth man off the bench, and so he does play a role. But again, that's just a lot. And with him complaining and whatnot, I figured we could try to get something for him. Malik Beasley, who we've added because although he is up for an extension, he has already indicated that he does not want to re-sign. And so, again, that's just kind of a look at where the team sits here. I mean, pretty bad. We are the fourth worst team in the league. We are, I think, the second worst team in the Western Conference as you look at the standings there. And so, where do we go from here? Well, I think you have to start talking not just about trades and things like this, but also start looking at the draft, right? And if we look at our draft board, there's a handful of different players here. A lot of these guys are guys that we'd be looking at if we did keep our first overall pick, which again, right now is a top 3 protected pick that Golden State has possession of. If it came back though, these are our options, right? And let's just kind of quickly go through and let's just look at this part here for now. So player comparison, they don't have a player comparison other than Danny Green, but Hall of Fame ceiling for Johan Sundin. So again, that's pretty impressive. We go to Crown Fisher, all NBA / Penny Hardaway, Dellavedova, I can never say his name right, as a floor for him, for Crown Fisher, George Stefan, Herb Williams, and Dwayne Dedman. So again, pretty nice list there of players. And then Stevie Meyer, John Wall ceiling, Raymond Felton floor. So there are some nice options here if we were to keep that pick. If we don't keep the pick, we're not going to be picking probably in the first round, right? Because we're not going to have much collateral to deal with. So that's where we start moving down to some of these later picks. Some guys like this, and some of these guys I just haven't reordered. So we'll come back to Dwayne Matthews. But here we have a collection of guys who would be, excuse me, second round options, right? So Tyrone Hill would be kind of a match there for Eddie Garrett. He's a power forward center. Sagana Nadur out of Nigeria, kind of an Alec Burks guard option with a bench floor. And Harvey Myers, point guard, defensive player like Patrick Beverly. His floor is also Patrick Beverly. So he will be Patrick Beverly is, I guess, what that scouting report is telling us there. Dwayne Matthews, again, this is be a guy we consider maybe higher up in the draft. Yao Ming as an all-NBA ceiling. Robin Lopez as a floor starter. So again, I think he's a good player, but again, he can only play center. So, what do you do with that? Ohio State, by the way, seems to have a pretty good team. They have quite a few players in the draft this year. Some other, later picks, Johnny Maxwell, I like, but I put him on here because I think he would be kind of a good fit for what I'm looking for out of a 2-3 player. He's a 3-and-D guy, right? Through and through. But if you look at his kind of draft spot, we're not really going to be in this position here unless we keep the third pick and maybe trade down. But I thought he was a good fit. He's 23, so it's certainly not somebody I'd want to pick in the top 5 or anything. But he's a nice player that we just ended up scouting. And then we get some other, one more late player here, Igor Kasparov, who is a 2-3 player out of Russia. Really, really good shooter. I believe his comparison is actually, who is it again? JJ Redick. So, this guy can shoot. And again, it's kind of a one-trick pony here. You can't really do a whole lot else. But he's got really good potential. And these are guys if you can grab a guy like this in the second round, if we were able to obtain a second round pick, this is a guy who would, certainly at the very least be a very strong role player, 6'7", 20-year-old. So he's a guy I definitely have on my list. And then Rick Verney, truthfully, he was the guy I just scouted because he's at the power forward position. I don't really think he's going to be a good fit. He's kind of the outside shooting. I'm sorry, that's not him. He's got a pretty good mid-range shot. Can contribute a little bit down low. Decent potential, decent rebounding. So he's not a bad player, but is he a guy we would take, 4th overall? No, I don't think so. He's certainly not a guy we take in the top, few picks there, I think. So again, that's just kind of a look at where things are as far as the scouting's going. We've kind of reached, I've scouted most of the players I want to see. It's not a very good defensive draft, and that's kind of what I'm looking at, is a player who can, contribute in offense, but also play really, really outstanding defense. There's just not a lot of guys there. One of the guys that was there is, guy at the very, very top here of that list, and Johan Sundin. So if we go back and look at him, and this is the guy who had the Hall of Fame potential here. And so if we just kind of go through and look at his stat line, 16 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, almost 4 steals. 2.9 blocks per game. Like, this guy is he's a machine, right? And so if we go look at his grades, he can shoot the 3-pointer. Perimeter defense A+. So I absolutely love this. If this guy's here and we're picking 1, 2, or 3, I have no problem picking this guy. Even though we have Anthony Edwards at shooting guard, that's okay. We'll figure out something here because this guy could just be too good to pass up. His potential is pretty solid. He's already got some badges here, 3 defensive badges already. After him, I actually really like Karan Fisher, who is kind of a defensive point guard out of Oregon State. So not a ton of badging going on. He's the Penny Hardaway comparison, 17 points, 8 assists, gets a couple steals per game. And he can score from just about anywhere. He's got decent perimeter defense, so I do think we can get that up. And the reason I think that is A+ potential, right? So this guy could actually even be better than Johan Sundin. It'd just be hard to say. But if one of these guys are here and we're picking 3rd, certainly if we're picking 2nd, we'll be able to pick one of these guys. But these guys, I think, would be really, really special players. I like Stefan. He's kind of your outside shooting, kind of Euro player, 6'11", but again, he's strictly a center. He's just a really good defender and rebounder. So same thing here. If this guy was here, I would probably pick him. We'd figure out something, even if that means moving Cat or something like that. So definitely have some options in the draft here. And so again, that's one of the big focal points here is, as we start looking at the trade deadline and things like that, is having a plan for the draft, even though technically we don't have any draft picks yet. So it's really kind of putting all that on the table and keeping all those options open, which again is a big reason why I said in episode 1 to be patient and take your time with these different things. So let's do a quick look around the league. If we look at the injury report here and just kind of sort by overall, you can see some bigger names up there with some injuries. We are fully healthy now, which is nice to see. But as we talked about earlier, we've had some injuries. D'Angelo Russell, I think, missed 5 games or so. And so, scrolling through this list here, you can see some teams are definitely dealing with some injuries. But hey, what that tells me is we're not the only team having to deal with it. And yet there we are towards the bottom of the standings. We've had one staff firing. The Pistons have fired their head coach, Dwayne Casey, and have promoted, it looks like, Sidney Lowe, no relation. And the reason I think it's a promotion is that it looks like they have hired a new assistant coach. And so I'm assuming that they just promoted Sidney Lowe, and then Otis Newman comes in there. So thought that was pretty cool. No new signings, and there have been a handful of trades. If we kind of go down to the bottom, I'll let you just look these over. I won't read these to you. So I'll just pause here for you to take a look at the trades. Draymond Green might be one of the bigger names you see on that list there. Warriors are a first place team, as you probably saw on a couple screens ago. They pick up Rudy Gay. It's tough to say, if that's a trade that makes sense for them. But again, I would just say, I approved all the trades that came through. These are all the ones. Nothing here looked like it was game breaking. And you have to keep in mind that these are algorithms, right? These are numbers. These are not the real life teams necessarily that you're used to seeing on TV. These are AI teams trying to adjust to the game's plan. It doesn't understand names or reputations per se the way that we do. Certainly not on a level that we do with different things. And so I'm for the most part pretty okay with going through a lot of trades, especially during the season, because you just don't know exactly maybe what that team's trying to do. And I mean, hell, we've seen crazy trades in real life all of the time. So. But yeah, I mean, that's, again, just kind of a look around. I mean, it's kind of an uneventful thing. I know my plan for next episode is to finish up the season. By then, on episode 3, you are going to see some transactions for sure. This team is going to look different. We may have a draft pick or two by then to talk about. And then certainly beyond that, we'll be getting into the offseason, doing the draft, all of that different stuff. So I'm really looking to get into season 2 and beyond here to see how quickly we can get this Timberwolves team in a good position for the future. So I want to say too, I super appreciate everyone checking these videos out. I've gotten a lot more subscribers with this, a lot of comments, things like that. It seems like people are having fun kind of watching and asking questions, and I really enjoy the dialogue. So if you do have questions, again, you can reach out right here on the YouTube channel. Go ahead and subscribe if you like these videos. I'm trying to post, 1 or 2 a week or so. And yeah, it's just been a lot of fun. So again, I'm Mike Lowe. You can find me on Twitter at MikeLowe47. YouTube channel is a good place to reach out to me. Twitter is a good place. The simsportsgaming.com Discord is a good place to find me. And yeah, this whole idea is just keeping franchise modes alive and well here, this time on Next Gen NBA 2K21 with, of course, their new sort of hybrid mode called MyNBA. And that's what we've been doing, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So I appreciate you guys checking us out, and I'll see you soon enough for episode 3.